Am I the a-hole for helping my ex's son financially but refusing to help my ex? I, 45 male, and my ex Emmy, 46 female, got together 3 years ago and broke up last year. My son Leo is 17 and Emmy's son Nate is 16. Emmy and her son moved in my house in June 2021. Her and I were supposed to have split custody, 1 week each. At the end of September, Nate told us that his father wasn't always here, that he was often alone, and asked us if he could stay at my house. Me and Emmy said yes. I realized quickly that Emmy wasn't taking care of Nate when it wasn't her week. For her, it wasn't her responsibility. This was one of the main reasons for the breakup. When Nate was here, I was the one taking care of him. Emmy and I broke up in February 2022 and she left my house in April. I was worried about Nate, so I proposed to Nate's father to help him take care of him. Long story short, he said yes. And now during Nate's father's week, I have him and Leo at my house. Nate still has his room and everything is the same as before. Me and Leo's mom have more money than my ex, so I give the same amount of money to Leo and Nate when they go out so he won't feel left out, and I buy things for him when needed. Emmy never said anything about this arrangement. The summer, like the ones before, Leo and Nate went to spend a few weeks at my parents'. We also took Nate with us when we went abroad, and I paid for everything. In September, everything resumed the same. I have Leo and Nate together during 1 week, and I take care of everything. My ex-wife, Leo's mom, is also helping during her time. He has sleepover at her place and she and her husband often sees games. Now the issue is, last week, Leo told me that Nate's sport gear was too deteriorated for him to use. I asked Nate, and he told me that he was too ashamed to tell me, and he was trying to save money to replace it. So this weekend, we went to buy everything he needed. I admit that I felt bad for not realizing it sooner, so I went a little overboard, and I bought him a more expensive equipment. I want to add, it's not unusual for me to buy things for Nate. On Monday, Emmy called me to complain about the new gear and told me that she needed money too. And she felt it was unfair of me to give/buy stuff for her son and not helping her when I had the money. She has a job, but she was complaining about not being able to have new/expensive stuff. Yesterday, I had dinner with friends and told them everything. 2 of them told me that they thought it was a little selfish of me to not help someone in need when I had more than enough money to do so. I admit that I'm well off financially, but I worked very hard to be where I am today, and I do not want her to benefit from that. They also raised the fact that my ex-wife and me were planning ahead to help Nate through college, that it was a big commitment, and it was horrible of me to choose who to help from my past. Is it really awful of me to refuse to help her when I have the money? I feel that I don't owe her anything. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You do not owe anyone anything. Emmy's an adult and should be focused on providing for her son and taking care of herself. I think it is amazing what you are doing to help Nate, and that really shows what a wonderful person you are. To me, it sounds like Emmy's jealous and wants to live a more luxurious lifestyle on your dime. 100% this. What about an entitled mother? Yes, she wouldn't take care of her son when it wasn't her week, even though he lived with her full-time. Now she risks her son's situation with Opie because she's jealous he has new stuff and she doesn't. She's simply a bad mother, and Opie should ignore her concerns. Not the a-hole. Why should you help her buy expensive things when you're already helping her by supporting her son? The idea is preposterous. You're already helping her by supporting her son. The fact that everyone telling Opie to give her money is ignoring this is insane to me. Also, Nate is a child. And this adult woman is like, be my daddy too? Opie's friends also ignore that he and Emmy were only together for 2 years. Of course, not the a-hole for choosing who to help from his past. I suspect the friends are just trying to hedge their bets to request money from him in the future too. And if those friends are seriously arguing that they pay for their ex-partners to have necessary items, let alone extras, they're full of it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my kid's sister call me dad? I have split custody for my 2 sons Diego, 12, and Sasha, 10 with my ex Josie. About a year after we split up, Josie got pregnant with Eva from a one-night stand. That guy never stepped up. He's pretty broke, so doesn't pay child support and would just stop by every now and then when Eva was young, but hasn't been seen since she was 4 or 5. I'm pretty good friends with Josie and will invite her and all 3 kids over sometimes when I have cookouts and stuff like that. Through the years, I've watched Eva for Josie as a favor here and there. They go to the same school, so sometimes I'll pick all 3 of them up and drop them off at Josie's on her weeks when she's busy but I have some time. I don't play a fatherly role though and don't really want to. But the other day when I picked them up from school, Josie asked me if I want to stay for dinner. We had a nice meal and hung around a while. Then when I go to leave, Diego and Sasha hug me goodbye and say, "Bye, Dad." Eva also gave me a hug and called me that as well. I figured it was a mix-up and go, "What was that, Eva?" She goes, "Oh, sorry. Mean to ask if I could call you that now." I told her I'd rather her call me by my name. I'm not comfortable with that, and I don't want that responsibility on me. She seemed sad, and I thought that was that. But since then, Josie told me I'm being a real jerk. Saying it's not like she's asking for child support for her, but I should still let her call me that and be flattered. I don't really like it though, and I'm afraid of future expectations if she gets used to it. Am I the a-hole for that? I want to be clear that the only part I said was, "I'd rather you just call me by my name." The "I'm not comfortable with that, I don't want that responsibility on me" was me explaining myself here. I didn't say that out loud to her. I don't personally want to be uncle or some nickname. I feel most comfortable going by my name. I have siblings with kids who call me Tio, and I like that just being their thing. That's not your child. You're doing enough to include her with your kids periodically. Letting her call you Dad sets her up for heartache down the road. It was good to set that boundary now. Josie also needs to talk to her. Get her some therapy to deal with an absent father. You are in no way responsible for filling that void. Not the a-hole. Yeah, it's a boundary I don't think I'd want to relent. I pride myself on how hard I work for my kids. Been working on college funds for both of them to be the first ones in our family to go to a university. And I feel like if I set that dad expectation, I'll have to share with Eva. And I know it may sound greedy, but I want all my hard work to go towards my kids. Eva's a nice kid, but it just isn't like that for me. Exactly. You can't expect your ex to pick up the slack because she chose a loser the next time around. You're doing fine. This issue lies with Josie. Not the a-hole. You're setting a boundary now so she doesn't even get more hurt. Also, Josie's at fault here. Her daughter's lonely. It's gotta be tough seeing your siblings with her dad while your biological father didn't stick around. This does affect kids. They feel unwanted. However, it's not your place to fill that void. Sometimes you can get to that point and love a child like they are your own. However, it doesn't always happen. You know what you're capable of. Lesson for adults? Your decisions affect your kids. This poor little girl is now suffering, but it's not your place to fix it. Not the a-hole. I feel sorry for Eva, but this isn't your responsibility and it's good you're drawing a line in the sand. Josie probably doesn't want to have a difficult conversation with her daughter. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my son's college tuition? I, 39 male, had a one-night stand in college and a girl who we'll call Jade got pregnant. I agreed to pay child support, but that was all. This arrangement has worked for 18 years. I never liked the idea of having kids anyway, so I don't really mind that my son, Marty, 18 male, and I have no contact. Jade never got a boyfriend or anything after she had Marty, so she's been doing a pretty good job all by herself. We're still friends to this day, and I've only spoken to Marty a few times. Marty, having recently graduated high school, wants to get into college. His tuition is expensive though, and as a single parent, Jade can't afford it and won't fund his tuition because of that. Marty got my number from Jade and asked if I would help pay for his tuition. He made a point saying that I have a well-paying job. He was my only son and I'd never been there for him as a dad, so I should at least pay his tuition. I refused, because first off, I paid Jade child support and extra money on the side for his entire life. And second, I never wanted kids to begin with. Child support was the condition I took to not have to directly care for one. He said that it was selfish of me to pretend like I don't have an obligation to him. And I told him I did have an obligation, which was to pay for him until he was an adult. He protested, saying that I never gave him anything, which just isn't true. I made sure Jade had the money to care for him and gave him gifts through Jade on occasion. Jade and I have been content with this arrangement for years, and she does a great job being a parent. I funded a whole lot of my son's life. I basically paid for everything Jade couldn't, like extracurriculars and sometimes even bills and groceries if she was in a bad spot. Jade agrees that Marty is being unreasonable in this demand, and she's thankful that I was there to support them both. She told Marty he had other options and it would hurt my finances too. His tuition is tens of thousands of dollars. I get paid more than average, but not enough to afford that. He's angry at Jade for taking my side, saying that I'm an unsupportive bum, and that I've done nothing for him in the long run. But that's just not true. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole for not paying tuition. It sounds like you have fulfilled the obligation set by you and Jade. But don't pretend that you don't deserve to be called an unsupportive bum by your son. It absolutely sounds like the truth given what you've written. You gave Jade a monetary support, not your kid. Yes, it was used for your son's needs, but since kids aren't supposed to be involved in the money issue between parents, you're going to have to tell me what you've done for your son that he could consider direct support from you. Seems like you did the absolute bare minimum, but nothing more. I'm not sure you deserve the credit you want for the role you played. He did more than 99% of parents who give up children for adoption and nobody gives them grief. He isn't looking to be called Dad of the Year, but he did more than the bare minimum without messing with the kids' emotions and flip-flopping their relationship his entire life. Not the a-hole. He stated that he did not want kids. She chose to keep the pregnancy. He fulfilled his legal obligations towards Marty while he was growing up. He is not the a-hole. I'm sure this won't be a favorable comment, but paying and staying at a distance is much better than randomly appearing and disappearing from Marty's life. My boyfriend's sperm donor basically did something similar, although he signed his parental rights away to my boyfriend's dad so he could adopt him. He stayed the heck out of his life and allowed my boyfriend's parents to raise him, which they did great in my opinion. It's so much better than having a parent that obviously wants nothing to do with you. If Opie were a woman, he would probably have interrupted the pregnancy or put the baby up for adoption because he didn't want to have children. But that's not a choice he can make, so he paid for support until his son entered adulthood. Does it suck for the son to know that the father didn't want him? Yep. But the father didn't want to be a father either. The son is not asking his father to be part of his life, but to help with more money. If Opie can and want to pay, excellent. But if not, I don't think Opie has to. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister after her father kicked her out? For context, my sister 23 female and I 20 female share the same mother, who had passed away long ago, and we have different fathers. We have always been very close and we would talk at least 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more. I moved away from my family and I now live with my boyfriend one state over. I pay bills and I work 35 to 40 hours a week. My sister has 3 young children. I have no children, so it's just my boyfriend and I. But she too earns her own money. Our relationship has become very distant, but I notice her never responding to my messages or anything. Not even to tell me she's busy or can't talk. She reads my messages but never responds to me, which is very hurtful since we have always been very close. I know everybody has their own lives and she's a busy person, but she only ever does talk to me when she needs money. She asks me at least once per week for money. It's always a different reason for it as well. Depending on her reasoning, which I sometimes don't know is even true, I do send her money. I have gotten my money back 1 time. She always swears to pay me back. Last week, she paid me my $30 back she needed, then 2 days later asked me for $20 more, to which I responded I did not have it. I work hard for my money, but I also don't have a very high-paying job. At 7 in the morning, she called me, to which I could not answer because my boyfriend is asleep and I'm respectful, so I sent her a message instead. She said her father kicked her out, and I asked her why and what happened, and she stated that he's an a-hole and asked me to give her money for a motel or something. I don't even get paid until later today, but I do have some money in savings that is meant strictly for bills. She swears to pay me back later, but I don't really trust that I will get that money back. So I told her I don't have the money and of course she disappeared once again. I always try to help my family members as much as I can, but I feel as if she is taking advantage of my kindness regardless of being my sister. So am I the a-hole for not helping my sister after she got kicked out? Not the a-hole. Your sister is using you. This, not the a-hole. There's a funny little phenomenon I've noticed, and it's that "but we're family" is used to try and explain away all kinds of crazy BS behavior. You're not automatically entitled to give or receive anyone's money simply because you're related. Opie, you've already figured out that your sister is a mooch, and any cash you give her will likely never be seen again. You've helped her financially repeatedly. It now sounds like a perfectly reasonable time to stop. If you want to give her money, and it's clearly a gift, not a loan, that's your choice. But you don't have to if you don't have the extra funds or flat out just don't want to. She needs to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. And there are a million ways for you to support her without giving her a million of your hard-earned dollars. You also wouldn't be out of line to just go no contact and cut her off completely. Just out of curiosity, is there any chance sister has a problem with drugs/alcohol? Not the a-hole. Some key points. 1. She has 3 young children at 23. Who is taking care of them? I usually understand when people want to be parents, but you can't be a responsible parent without financial stability, among other things. I'm concerned about the children's well-being at this point. 2. Dad probably kicked her out because she is constantly asking him for money or not trying to leave. He probably doesn't want to take care of young kids. 3. Your sister is using you. Since you don't have kids, she probably thinks she can always get money from you. Whatever the reason the dad kicked her out, she needs to work on that. That issue is between them. If she's like one of our cousins, sister is probably pulling the vanishing act on kids, not taking care of them when her dad needs her to, not responding to calls, etc. Our cousin has tried to get custody of the grandkids, but she won't sign the papers. Not the a-hole. Just an observation based on what you shared, it sounds like she may have some addiction issues. I was thinking the same thing. And I'm very worried, so I'm going to plan a day to go up there and figure out the reality of the situation. Just make sure you mentally protect yourself. Trying to talk to an addict about their behavior, even respectfully, rarely ends peacefully. Am I the a-hole for not meeting my dying father? I have absolutely no contact with my parents. I don't talk to them, I don't visit them. To be honest, I'd rather never see them again in my life. This might sound bad, but I do have my reasons. I was kicked out of my parents' house the day after my 18th birthday. My father claimed that an 18-year-old is already an adult and they should be able to live by themselves. Just a heads up, I was still in high school when that took place. I worked part-time, but I couldn't afford housing. I slept on the streets for about a few weeks until I found a shelter. Not only that, but I had too many rough days after that. The streets are no place for anyone, especially someone that young. Through the help of some NGOs, I managed to finish school, get into a technical course for programming, and get a decent job. Now, 10 years after that, I just graduated college. I saved up to actually do that. However, I can't forgive my parents. I never contacted them and they didn't contact me. That was until yesterday. Somehow my family, uncle, got my phone contact and sent me a message. My father is extremely sick, and it is likely that he might pass away in the next few days. My uncle told me that my father wanted to see me one last time and asked if I could go there. I said I would not go. I absolutely resent and bear a grudge against my father and mother. They kicked me out, and she did absolutely nothing to stop it. As you might assume, my uncle started to get heated and called me heartless, ungrateful, and an a-hole, among other things. And I'm pretty sure most of my family feels the same way about me. Honestly, I'm only asking here for my sanity's sake. I will not be meeting them, but I understand that the man is dying. And by not going, I'm denying something to a dying man, which might make me an a-hole. However, even if it does, I do not care. I'd rather be an a-hole than see those two ever again. Now for the top comments. He's an adult. He's old enough to die on his own. F your uncle and F your dad. Not the a-hole. And where was this uncle when your parents threw you out? Did he stand up for you against your parents then? Honestly, where was anyone of Opie's family? Let's be honest. They probably have no clue what happened and were told an alternate reality from the parents. Came here to say this. The parents probably lied and said he left on his own and went no contact. Opie, you're not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. The day he kicked you out is the day you were no longer his child. And just because he's dying does not mean you have to forgive him for what he did. You have every right to not visit him. And he's most likely not gonna apologize and try to justify what he did. He'd probably try to take credit. If I hadn't put you in the streets, you never would have developed the initiative and work ethic to succeed. Now change my bad pen. Now change my bad pen. He's only doing this for himself and maybe have a good/better image. I know what I did was wrong, but I'm asking for forgiveness type of thing. And if he wasn't dying, he would have never tried to reach out to Opie. 100% not the a-hole, but I'm a bit of a vindictive witch at times. So I'd visit, just once, to tell your dad that you wanted to check that he's actually dying, and will never forgive him, and that you hope this haunts him until his last breath. Earth-scorched and salted. But you may need therapy if you go this route. In fact, you may need therapy regardless. Good luck, Opie, and look after yourself. I like your style. Personally, I thought that there would be many nights. When things were awful and Opie may have retained hope his parents would regret their decision and help him by taking him out of the hellish situation he was in. So 1, I'd vacillate over the not going, maybe and maybe not, until I heard he was really sick. 2, then agree to go and cancel a few times, to get their hopes up. 3, and when they were about to figure out, say, for sure going today at X. 4, call from on the way there, and ask to be in speakerphone so Dad and Mom could hear my voice. 5, then tell them, for many nights I had false hopes you would regret kicking me out, and be kind, find me and offer help. But you never did. I wanted you to know the feeling of that hope being ripped away before you died. I never intend to visit. 6, and maybe laugh. But maybe that's a tad much. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being honest with my parents about my childhood? I, 24 female, was poor growing up. We had to rough it throughout my childhood and teenage years. College was funded solely by scholarships and awful part-time jobs. I don't hold any resentment towards my parents over this, but it was hard at a time. I think I would still be struggling now had things been different. I met my partner, 31 male, during my sophomore year and we've been together for just under 5 years. His family was in the exact opposite financial situation as mine. He has an established position in his father's company. He has since we met, and works remotely. Since my graduation in May, we've spent almost the entire summer with his parents, sightseeing and bouncing around to their different vacation homes. It was such a wonderful experience. I never thought I'd experience something like that, but the adjustment was easier than I expected. As we headed back home this week, we stopped by to visit my parents, 45 female and 47 male. While there, I mentioned that this summer felt like what all the summer breaks of my childhood should have been, and how excited I was for the future when my partner and I have children and can give them this treatment. My mother apparently took incredible offense to what I had said, and said they had done the best they could for me as a child. I replied that I never claimed any differently. The argument ended with us still not seeing eye to eye, and my husband and I made an early departure than we had been planning on, thanks to the tension in the house that remained. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You can be honest about your childhood by saying you were poor. Saying my childhood should have been like this when your parents didn't choose to be poor is a huge a-hole move. It was just so easy to adjust. Someone please take the silver spoon out of Opie's mouth. You're the a-hole and ungrateful. Not everybody marries rich. Your parents loved you despite you draining their income, didn't they? I'm sure they would have had a more lavish lifestyle without having to raise you, but they did the best they could for you. Damn, imagine treating your own parents like this. I will never understand how people can be like this. The only thought in my mind is getting to a situation where I can do things for my mother who did her best with 3 children after a nasty divorce. We didn't have the picture-perfect childhood, but she did her best to provide for us, and we had it better than most people would have in our situation, and the only thought in my mind is, how am I ever going to be able to repay my mother? You're the a-hole. What your summer breaks should have been? How utterly insensitive and hurtful. Your parents didn't choose to be poor. No one does. It's shocking that you don't see how unkind what you said was. Not just insensitive, but entitled as heck. Summer break should be a time kids get a break from school, and that's about it. The vast majority of people never jet off anywhere. I know mine were more like trips to the lake to swim or maybe camping. We got on a plane for a trip maybe twice before my 18th birthday, and my family was nowhere close to poor. For someone raised with very little, Opie sounds spoiled as heck. No kidding. My family was solidly middle class, but we surely didn't have elaborate vacations while I was growing up. And that certainly doesn't mean I was deprived or we were poor. Something tells me Opie is grossly exaggerating how poor she was growing up. More likely her family was working class or lower middle class. She needs to get over her entitlement. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not paying for my daughter to start yet another degree? My wife and I have 3 daughters. We always told them we would pay for their college tuitions provided they wanted to go. Our eldest, Hazel, graduated in 2018. She started at a 4-year university and lasted there 6 months before dropping out and coming home. We had to eat a lot of fees because by that point they were non-refundable. Her reason for dropping out was that she didn't want to pursue that major anymore. We told her she could switch to undecided or general studies until she did figure it out, but she insisted on dropping out. From there, she enrolled in the local community college, which was cheaper, but as we didn't qualify for financial aid, we were paying for all of it. She stayed through till the world fell apart in 2020. She tried online schooling, but it was too hard and we respected that. Our younger two were struggling with virtual school. I can't imagine how hard college was. She took some time off, then in January of this year, started at another 4-year college. Keep in mind, only some of her credits transferred, but we were supportive. Last month, she came to us and said she wants to drop out yet again and go to cosmetology school. I have nothing against that. But after spending tens of thousands of dollars on these other schools, she's got to pay her own way on this one. I told her if she finishes and gets her license, I will reimburse her, but she needs to figure out how to finance it on her own. She asked how she's supposed to do that, and I told her to get a job. She got upset and said I'm going back on my word. It doesn't help that this year our middle daughter graduated, and we're paying for her to go to a 4-year college. Hazel said this isn't fair, and I said I'd do the same to her sister if she was as wishy-washy. Now, Hazel won't talk to me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You've given her a chance and a backup. There comes a time when we all have to stand on our own 2 feet. Would Hazel qualify for an apprenticeship? Those aren't a thing around here. Cosmetology school is certainly cheaper than a 4-year school. Why not determine how much she would have cost at her 4-year school, and if she hasn't hit there, offer the rest as a kind of education budget? She's more than hit what a 4-year school would be. Not the a-hole. You've paid for 3 false starts. She can pay for the rest. And they're willing to compensate her if she finishes. That's a better deal than I ever got. Totally agree. She has to learn to finish what she starts. She'll just do this again if OP agrees to her demands. Not the a-hole. You did pay. Twice already. She has a pattern of not finishing what she starts. I wouldn't want to pay for a 3rd shot either. You didn't say, I'll pay all schooling for all time, no matter how many different paths you take, and she shouldn't pretend that you did. You're right that if she's serious about this, she'll pay for it since she's now been given reassurance. You'll reimburse her if she finishes. You're still offering to pay, but only after she shows she's serious about it and has completed it, not before. You're being more generous than I would be at that point. You still have 2 other kids to pay for, and maybe she'll finally understand how generous you've been if she has to foot the bill for once. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting my daughter's financial support off and monitoring every cent she spends? I'm so livid right now about the entire situation that I can't see straight and make a fair judgment. My daughter is heading off to college this year. I and my wife both decided years ago that if/when she went to college, we did not want her working to support herself. Well, now that time has come, and we've been working on ways to make sure she can fully focus on her education. I and my wife budgeted out a monthly allowance for her, along with her tuition payments. A big part of this is that I want to also teach her to budget out her money and figure out how to handle her own purchasing. While she was still going to live at home while she went to school, and it was made clear that though she could still eat with us and use some of our stuff, we expect her to start buying her own necessities and prepare her food. We also cut back on our grocery bill to an appropriate amount to only cover I, my wife, and our other child. We decided this would take effect in June, and made sure for months that she would be ready for it. We taught her how to balance a checkbook, income versus expenses, the basics of cooking, etc. To say the first month was a disaster is an understatement. Within only 11 days, she had blown through her entire monthly allowance. This was not an insignificant amount either. We gave her $1,000, and she blew through it in 11 days. She does not pay any rent, utilities, health insurance, etc. She had no clue how she blew through that much money, but I figured it out incredibly quickly. She spent $500 alone eating out, $300 at Walmart and who knows what, and the rest on gas somehow. Again, in a car she does not pay for at all. She then asked if it would be possible to increase the amount of money she was being given. I lost it. I held nothing back and told her there was no way in hell this was going to happen again. The experiment was over, and there was no way I was going to give her a single cent of unsupervised money. We spent months teaching her, and I mean literally every weekend I was teaching her how to be a responsible adult. I told her that I was the most disappointed in her I have ever been at that moment, and she knows I feel I have failed as a parent. We are not rich, never have been. $500 out of every one of my paychecks is a very, very noticeable amount. I've been monitoring her like a hawk ever since. I give her no more than $20 cash, and if she ever wants to use her card, she needs to tell me the exact amount so I can transfer it over. This has not been easy and has caused strain in our relationship. I just tell her now she can get a job if she wants, because then at least it's her own money. Now though, I'm getting backlash from extended family who have learned what's going on. My wife is in firm agreement, but now I'm second-guessing myself. Edit, the amount of money I gave her is rightfully being looked at. It was way too much, and I think I realized that probably soon after she spent it all. My budgeting, in my mind, was $300 for groceries, $200 for other essential purchases, $200 for gas, and $300 for school-related purchases/surplus money. I overshot but didn't care because I thought whatever she had left over could go into savings, and she could have a good chunk of savings just in case. What this has taught me is that I've taken this personally and allowed myself to become nihilistic towards my daughter. Her attitude set this all off, and I feel that is truly what I could not forgive about this. My parents never would have dreamed to do this with me, so when she spends $120 at a steakhouse paying for her friends, when we have not gone out to a steakhouse like that pretty much ever as a family, I felt disrespected that she dared ask for more money. I was naive to give her $1,000 like this, or to really expect that this adulting experiment would have worked out. Gonna step back and rethink what my priorities should actually be and what I need to take away from this all. I have to say, you're the a-hole. You waiting until your daughter was 18.5 years old to start teaching her any kind of basic adult life skills? No freaking wonder she's not good at it. If you wanted her to be plug-and-play functioning adult, you should have started years ago. You only have yourself to blame for this. Also, one failure and then you conclude she'll never learn? Not if she isn't given the chance to learn. Was she stupid with her money? Yes. But then she needs to feel the consequences of not being able to do anything or go anywhere because she can't afford it for the next 20 days. I'm not saying give her more money, but you basically showed her swimming videos, then dropped her at the deep end of a pool, and when she struggled, you scolded her, pulled her out, and forbade her from ever going to the pool again. Micromanaging is teaching her nothing but resentment. Exactly. She's never had a chance to actually spend money on her own. They should have started sooner and with a smaller budget. She has to learn by doing. Otherwise, she's going to have zero control over her financial habits once she's on her own. Everyone sucks here. It was first month and she did a big screw up, yes. But if she's only allowed to screw up once, you're setting her up for failure. This. Also, did they brought her to food shopping before all of this? Does she know how to cook at all? If the answer to both questions is no, no wonder she went on to grab food from takeout. She probably doesn't know how to manage stuff. And while she can't be totally excused, this is a good time to teach her how to do those stuff. Opie's response is way too extreme and will not teach the kid to be responsible with money and can in the long term prepare the kid to be financially mistreated under someone else's. Because the thought is, I am not responsible enough with money and I need to be under the supervision of someone else. Am I the a-hole for ruining Father's Day by telling my cousin the truth about why our fun uncle is not involved in her life? Currently, my Uncle John and Aunt Gia are married. But before that happened, Gia had been married to my Uncle Grant for 5 years. And Gia had been cheating on him with John. Uncle Grant was serving in the military for a lot of this time, so we didn't know until he returned home after an 8-month deployment to discover that Gia was already 3 months pregnant and she confessed everything. My grandparents sided with Uncle Grant at first, but after they learned that John was going to marry Gia for the baby, my cousin Zoe, they told Uncle Grant to think of what's best for the baby and forget John and Gia's cheating. Uncle Grant doesn't talk to them anymore, but kept in contact with my dad and our family. Uncle Grant also doesn't have a relationship with Zoe or her younger siblings, John Jr. and Emmy. He explained to me when I asked him as a teenager that he feels keeping his distance is the kindest thing, because he does feel resentment. And he knows it wouldn't be fair to Zoe to bring that kind of energy around her, which I understand. Since yesterday was Father's Day, me and my immediate family hung out with Uncle Grant in the morning and went to my grandparents' house in the evening for dinner. Zoe was at my grandparents' house with her parents and siblings, and she complimented my necklace and asked how I got it. I kept my response vague by saying, "Oh yeah, I got it as a birthday gift." And Zoe responded, "It was from Uncle Grant, isn't it?" Side note, Uncle Grant is the only one in our family who really has money, so I realize now how that would be obvious. I couldn't avoid it anymore without lying since Zoe asked directly, so I told her yes. Zoe got angry, saying that she knows from her parents that me and my brother constantly do fun stuff and get nice things from Uncle Grant. And she demanded to know why she and her siblings have never gotten that same treatment from him. Zoe then made a nasty accusation as to why Uncle Grant only treats me and my brother the way he does. At that point, I pulled Zoe into a private room and offered to tell her the truth, but warned her that her parents did some bad things, and knowing would probably change the way she looks at them. Zoe still insisted on knowing, so I told her what happened in as unbiased a way as possible. Obviously, Zoe was shocked and upset. She ended up getting into an argument with her parents and they went home early. Several different family members called me after, and apparently it's a crap show at John and Gia's house. Zoe wants to stay with our grandparents and is giving her own parents the cold shoulder. John Jr. is suspicious and asking questions, and Emmy is upset/confused because Zoe and her parents were all pretty close before. Only my parents, brother, and Uncle Grant have my back. All the other adults in the family said I ruined Father's Day and should have left the past in the past. But Zoe will be 18 in August and demanded the truth, and I felt she has a right to know. Am I the a-hole? Added for clarification, Uncle Grant, John, and my dad are all biological brothers. Gia has no biological relation to me. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. She asked a question. You warned her she might not like the answer, and she still insisted. All you did was tell the truth. At 17, she deserves to know the truth. John and Gia are just facing the consequences of their cheating, and the family members giving you crap about this are probably the ones who insisted on hiding Gia's cheating. Edited to add, holy smokes, I just saw the edit that John is the biological brother of Grant. So Gia cheated on Grant with his brother. This just got so much worse. This just reaffirms my stance that you are super not the a-hole. But John and Gia? Screw them. They're huge a-holes. I can totally understand Grant keeping his distance because John just carpet bombed that relationship with his brother. My God, his own brother? Definitely not the a-hole, OP. Not at all. Good luck dealing with this. Not a-hole. Zoe then made a nasty accusation as to why Uncle Grant only treats me and my brother the way he does. This is something that had to be stopped before rumors started flying around and Grant's character was assassinated. Anyone who can make references to grooming and exploitation of children out of pure rank jealousy can be told, hey, you're an affair baby, and our uncle doesn't like you nor wants to be around you because of your mother and father's betrayal of him. It's not like Zoe's some innocent 8-year-old. She has awareness of dark family stuff. Her dark family stuff isn't even as dark as what she was accusing Uncle Grant of. If she is happy to spout one as an untruth, she can cope with the other as hard facts. People have had lives ruined for that kind of stuff. Poor Uncle Grant is just trying to enjoy the family he has left. It wasn't that kind of accusation. Zoe accused Uncle Grant of being closer to me and my brother because we have lighter skin than Zoe and her siblings, which, as I said, is still a nasty and completely untrue accusation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to talk to my dad even though he got mental help, and then making him cry for telling the truth on his birthday? My dad used to be abusive. It got so bad that my mom and him lost custody of us. My grandparents adopted all 5 of us, and my mom left my dad after getting an ultimatum from my grandparents, and life just kind of went on. Fast forward to today, 13 years later. I am 25 and I'm disappointed to say that my grandparents died and my mom went back to my dad. All of my siblings also reconnected with him and say he changed completely, although most are not close to him. From what I heard, after losing his family, he finally got mental help and was diagnosed with severe PTSD as an Army vet and bipolar disorder. He spent the better part of a decade getting professional help and looks like it worked. Now my brother and mom are guilt-tripping me into talking to him. They constantly tell me how he was mentally unwell and to give him a second chance since he misses me and wants to make things right. But I really don't want to. I'm glad everyone's happy, but I just don't want to put myself through all that. I have lived 13 years without him. I don't want to have any contact with him ever again. I live on my own, so they can't do anything about it, really. They are basically saying that he wants to be absolved of his past, and by not wanting to talk to him and living in the past, I'm making an old man's life miserable, since his sins are following him. They keep saying he just wants to hear my voice. I still ain't budging because I feel like he gave away that right a long time ago. Recently, it was my dad's 70th birthday and they invited me. I said no, but apparently they made up some convoluted story that I was on a vacation abroad and sent a photo of me and my boyfriend with a text saying, "Happy 70th birthday, Dad. Love, Opie," to my dad. Apparently, he loved it and started brainstorming ideas where to meet with me to talk after I get back from my trip. My sister was present and texted me what had happened. I got so mad that I called my brother and told him to put me on speaker and told everyone at the birthday that I didn't send that message and don't want to have anything to do with my father, and then hung up. I got missed calls from my brother and later a text calling me heartless and asking me if I'm proud of myself for making a 70-year-old man cry on his birthday. He also called me vindictive and childish for living in the past. I said what my wishes were and that they didn't respect them. They made him cry, not me. But now all my extended relatives think I'm a huge witch, even though the rest of my siblings support me. So I don't know what to make out of all of this. I just want my wishes to be respected, and I don't think him getting therapy really can wipe away mistreating his family for over 2 decades. Not a-hole. This is on them. This is their screw-up, not yours. 100%. They think OP is cruel. They're the ones demanding a victim play nice to their abuser and getting the old man's hopes up in some sort of sick, weird attempt to manipulate and guilt the victim into it when they set clear boundaries. Actions have consequences. If this man is truly holding himself accountable for the harm he caused, he would not expect anything from OP. And we don't have a side. But if he actually respected OP's wishes and was willing to respect her space, and these people got his hopes up anyway, holy Christ, that's so awful. Honestly, sounds as if OP not speaking to him is an uncomfortable reminder of the past for them. Can't think of any other reason for them to be hounding you like this. Well, OP isn't responsible for their feelings about their relationship with him. One of the big things that helped me make peace with my dad is that when I took him to therapy and said everything I needed to say, he just accepted it was his fault and said he was sorry. I had been so scared that he would get defensive because the harm had occurred years ago, or because he'd got in therapy and changed, but he never invalidated any of my feelings. I think that showed me that he really had changed, and that he truly did want to work things out and move on. Had he put up a wall or tried to direct the conversation, I might not be talking to him anymore today. Hey, you had to live through his PTSD. Now they can live with yours. Seriously, a parent's mental illness can have devastating effects on the minds of children. I hope you're in therapy. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my daughter to my wedding? I, 47, have been low contact with my daughter Noelle for 3 years at this point. I went low contact with her. There is a lot that happens. But my last straw was when she was 23, she stole my credit card and racked up close to $4,000. There was a lot more to it, but that was my last straw. Anyways, I'm getting married. I've been with him for 10 years and we are doing a very small gathering with my 2 other kids, his kids, and my grandma. So a total of 8 people. Noelle is better now, got her life together, and we are talking more often. But I didn't invite her. I don't trust her not to pull a stunt at the wedding. It got back to her and she got angry. Long arguments on both sides, and in the end, she called me an ass. My kids are divided on this issue, so I want an outside opinion. Thank you for everyone's comments. I think I'm fine if this ends my relationship with her. If she wants to cut contact since I'm not healed enough or trust her enough after all she did, then it's on her. It's been 3 years of low contact, and my life has been better. I don't think no contact would change any of that. Now for the top comments. Has she apologized or made amends or done anything that acknowledges how much trouble she caused? Or is it more like she slid back into your life with, "Hey, I'm better now"? It's more sliding back and going, "I'm better now" for me. If I try to bring up the past, it's a lot of changing the subject. I know she apologized to her sister, but it didn't end well. Did she steal her sister's credit card too? Basically try to steal her boyfriend. She set her sister up on multiple blind dates, harassed her, sent explicit text to her boyfriend. When that didn't work, she went over to her boyfriend's house, and the cops were called on her when he turned her down and she wouldn't leave. He broke up with my other daughter since he didn't want to deal with Noelle. Not a-hole. She broke her trust, and has to work to rebuild your trust before you can fully invite her back into your life. Reading OP's comments, her daughter has a lot to make up for to the whole family. She stole and sold grandma's jewelry given to grandma from her dead husband. Everyone should read the comments. She did some crafty stuff. No a-holes here, at least not now. Do understand though that not inviting her to your wedding will be taken as a decision not to have a relationship with her. That's a decision you're free to make, but you can't expect her not to be hurt and angry about it. OP's comment history indicates that daughter has bad blood with all but one person who will be in attendance and has a history of trying to start fights. I can understand why you wouldn't want to risk it on your wedding day. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for agreeing to take my niece on holiday but not her stepsister? This concerns my daughter Maddie, my brother Jason's daughter Bella, and his wife Tracy's daughter Sarah. All three girls are 11 and go to the same school. Bella and Maddie have always been close. So close that our family jokingly calls them the twins. They do the same extracurriculars at school and often have sleepovers, etc. I wasn't really surprised that when I picked the two girls up a few days ago, Maddie asked if we could have Bella come traveling with us for the summer. We always go away for pretty much the whole summer, and this year will be to 3 countries in continental Europe. I had no problem with Bella coming along, so said I would talk to Jason about it. We agreed that Bella could come. Jason and his ex would cover the cost of her flights, a subsidized contribution to accommodation, and give her a credit card for any expenses. Obviously, I will pay for most things, but this is for souvenirs or emergencies. The girls are thrilled. Over the weekend, I got a call from Tracy who is upset that I didn't invite Sarah on the trip. She said it was cruel of me to not offer her to take Sarah as well, since I know she has trouble socially at school as well as trouble getting along with Bella. She said me not inviting Sarah on the trip showed that we didn't think of her as family. Tracy said Sarah's devastated over this. I explained that I didn't invite anyone on this trip. Maddie did. To me, her inviting Bella is like her inviting a friend. It's not a family trip. The girls are just also friends. Jason is now getting pressure from Tracy not to let Bella go on the trip if Sarah isn't going, and he says he does see the point about it being unfair and exclusionary. His ex is now arguing, saying Bella should go anyway, and I agree. I think not allowing Bella to go because of Sarah is going to cause more problems between them. Jason asked if I would consider bringing Sarah on the trip as well, and I said no. This is my holiday too, and I don't want to spend it refereeing, bickering between girls who are forced to spend time together. I also don't want to be footing the bill for Sarah's trip, as Tracy has a long history of not giving Sarah a reasonable amount of money to do things, and expecting whoever is around to just make up the difference. I would feel bad if Bella doesn't get to come because of this, but I don't think it's fair to anyone to take Sarah on this trip. Not the a-hole. My family is structured similarly to yours, and I understand your justifications 100%. Even if the verdict makes us both exclusionary a-holes, know that I feel your pain. Agreed, and honestly, why not do something with Sarah themselves, as in Tracy and Jason? Forcing Bella to skip the trip will just throw gasoline on the fire of the issues between Sarah and Bella. Yes, have them do the messy work of parenting a disappointed kid, and maybe help her learn some things. Tracy's doing well at ensuring the girls get along even less well. Does she think her daughter will have a good time playing third wheel to 2 girls who don't want her there? It is not Bella's job to make up for her stepsister's social awkwardness. As her mom, Tracy should be encouraging her in activities she enjoys and finding friends that way, not the a-hole. I'm curious what Tracy would do if it was a non-related close friend asking Bella to accompany their family on a European vacation, provided they know and trust the family well. Would she also try to insist this family, who essentially has no real relationship with Sarah, bring her on their months-long trip? Or deprive her stepdaughter from a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the sake of fairness? Not the a-hole. You nailed it with our family jokingly calls them the twins. Sorry, Tracy. Their relationship was established deep long ago, and you being the way you are does not help.